Hi, I'm Alex McCord, and welcome to The Real Deal on thestir.com. This week, the drama doesn't stop. We've got the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Orange County, New York City, and New Jersey. And there's lots to discuss. Plus, what are you doing on July 8th? Write that date down. Make a date in your calendar with me. Why? I'll tell you later. But first, the husbands joined the Real Housewives of Atlanta for part 3 of the season 6 reunion. Now, was it just me, or did Apollo Nida seem like he was on something? Did you hear him saying Jamaica Man under his breath? Well, regardless of that, there are plenty of free drinks available in the green room on reunion day, even if it's 7 o'clock in the morning. So it is totally possible that Apollo joined that couch with some liquid courage. In any case, Apollo went after Kenya Moore, and it was bloody. He accused Kenya of rehashing their fake romance over and over again for the reality cameras. Now, I will say this is one area where Apollo kind of had a point, right? One thing that's annoying about producers on docudrama reality TV is that once they get their teeth into a storyline, they will beat that horse until it's dead, then bring it back to life and do it all over again. Whew. But otherwise, didn't Apollo seem a little scary on the reunion? And according to my spies, the drama continued off camera. Apparently, Apollo and Phaedra arrived at the reunion and left in separate cars. Apollo brought a posse of guys with him who sort of roamed the hallways and the dressing rooms during filming, and it was not a good situation. Whoo! But then we have Peter Thomas, Cynthia's husband. Peter deserves an award. I wanted to jump through the TV and high-five him for best use of a prop ever. Did you see it? Peter pulled out a peach and ate it. Well, I have said before and I will say again, if you bring a man on the show, he gets to talk. You cannot use the argument that husbands cannot talk to the other ladies, the other cast members. It is a bogus argument. He gets a microphone, he gets to use it. Now, it also goes to show you that the producers are hypocrites. So, after the Portia and Kenya fight, Andy said no more props. Yet, on the very same day, on the very same show, Peter is using a prop. Maybe the rule needs to be Bravo will only allow props that are edible. Well then, maybe Portia would have made Kenya eat that microphone. Actually, I would watch that with popcorn. But Peter's beef goes all back to NeNe Leakes. So, what about NeNe Leakes? Is she a megalomaniac? Is she trying to control the show? Let's break it down. I say, yes, NeNe is trying to control the show, and Andy and all the cast members are letting her do it. They will throw anyone under the bus except NeNe. Example, Kenya Moore exposed that NeNe told Marlo if she filmed with Kenya, NeNe would not film with Marlo anymore. Also, NeNe screamed that Kenya was getting special treatment when they filmed the PJ party. Is NeNe being a control freak? Yes, she is. With Marlo, with any housewives, refusing to film with one another, whether you're cast or a friend of, is intentional career sabotage. But every time I personally have seen Marlo in real life, which is not that often, but every time I have, she was with NeNe, off duty, off camera. NeNe said that she and Marlo were real friends, and based on my experience, I believe her. Who knows why the relationship soured? But NeNe didn't bring the reason on the show, and she could have. Is she cutting Marlo off now? Yes, but it has nothing to do with Kenya. Next, with the PJ party. Producers will often make cast members arrive early or late to stir the pot and add drama. It's completely possible that Kenya was given a different time to arrive. She might not have known she was 3 hours late until she was walking through the door. She makes an entrance, everyone's mad. And NeNe has 6 seasons under her belt at this point, so she knew when Kenya wasn't there that something was up. But it's interesting to me that the entire cast is backing NeNe up. And I don't think it's because the cast necessarily like NeNe, I think they just hate Kenya, and so they made a choice. Notice that Andy practically dared Kenya to quit the show. Add to that both NeNe and Portia threw Cynthia under the bus, and you can see who's on the chopping block, and it's people that NeNe want to be gone. But speaking of Portia, weren't you happy to see that she got a one-on-one with Andy on Watch What Happens Live? Particularly since she missed out on 2 weeks of reunion time. And does anyone else agree with me? I think Portia may have saved her job. She came across strong and funny and better than she did on the entire season of Housewives. Now, that doesn't make her a lock for next season. You can be great in interviews with Andy or other non-cast and still get trampled by the ladies on camera. But I wouldn't write her off just yet. Next, in Orange County, I really wanted to curl up and hide behind my couch, and not because of the ugly Christmas sweaters. Let's discuss episode 4 of season 9. Shannon Beador and her husband bicker all the time, and there was so much cut and paste editing that I got whiplash this episode, didn't you? Clearly, the producers filmed Shannon and David for 48 hours straight and cherry-picked out the good parts. The good parts being when they were bickering or having an awkward silence. Now, let me introduce you to some jargon here. I'm going to say in reality and interview. In reality means scenes that are reality, having lunch, getting coffee, the ladies together, husbands together, whatever. Not interviews. So, in reality, we see Shannon allude to a conversation she had with David where they agreed to release all ill will. But we did not see that conversation take place. Either they didn't film it or they cut it out, so we don't know what they're talking about. And then in spliced-in interviews, Shannon complains that she can't get her husband's attention. Then it cuts back to reality where she has his full, undivided attention. I don't know whether that was a gotcha moment to make Shannon look stupid or whether it was just sloppy editing. But then, when they finally stop talking about work and kids and concentrate on each other, they have nothing to say. And with all this, I have to wonder, did they know about this beforehand? Did they agree to this? Is getting divorced their storyline? Because if they didn't plan this whole thing in advance, I am scared for them and their children. This could get much uglier than a Christmas sweater. Also, we meet the final new additions to the season 9 Orange County cast this week. Lizzie Rovzek and newcomer friend of the housewives, Danielle Gregorio. Lizzie is a bombshell who wants to prove she's not just a pretty face, and she proves it, from amalgam to Yale. Well, she left out Z, but it's only episode 4. She has time. Danielle did not impress me yet, but let's see whether either of these new ladies can catch Shannon Beador. And speaking of catching, did you catch something this week in the credits of New York City? Did you catch someone missing? That's right, Aviva Drescher is out temporarily this week, and my spies tell me the next 2 weeks. So that makes 3 weeks of no apples for Aviva. Now that would make a great spin-off title. Well, my sources also told me this week that New York got a bit of a raw deal this season when it came to their contracts. Instead of having an agreement for an entire season, they had contracts that were renewable every 7 weeks during filming. So anytime they weren't bringing it, they didn't have to be filmed for the rest of the season. Apparently, everybody but Ramona got this contract. And we saw what happened with Luann. So if the other ladies seemed like they were hopped up on crazy drama this season, that's why. Sonia Morgan didn't seem crazy. She seemed delusional. This week, season 6, episode 9, if you're keeping track, it was Kristen's husband, Josh, who held up the mirror to Sonia. I feel so bad for her, but you know what? Even looking insane, she's still fun to watch. And I wish I could say the same for my gal Ramona. As much as I love her in real life, she crossed the line into cuckoo land this episode. Even when it comes to pot stirring, there is such a thing as trying too hard, particularly when it gets to throwing glasses in people's faces. You don't do that. Sometimes you need to stop trying to save the show and just save yourself. Agree? And before I leave you this week, remember, we have a date for July 8th. Do you know why? Ha! In a shocking, you can't make this up coincidence, both Atlanta's Apollo Nida and New Jersey's Joe and Teresa Giudice will all be sentenced on the same day in different states. Let's call it the premiere of The Real Housewives of Fraud. Did I just say that out loud? Yes, I did. Yesterday afternoon, Apollo Nida pled guilty to charges of bank, wire, and mail fraud. He claimed that back in 2009, he had just been released from prison, didn't have a job, and his wife was making 6 figures on the Housewives. That's right. Apollo blamed his fraud on the Real Housewives. It's the Real Housewives' fault. He didn't feel he could keep up with his wife, Phaedra, in a legitimate business, so he started committing crimes. This time around, he had an accomplice, and she has already been sentenced to 5 years. But Apollo is potentially going to be sentenced for up to 30 years. And speaking of blaming housewives, Joe and Teresa Giudice would probably never have been cast on New Jersey if they had not already been engaged in the fraud to which they pled guilty. Without the houses, cars, boats, and other toys, they would not have had the lifestyle that led to them being cast. Between Atlanta and New Jersey, July 8th is going to be huge. And if the producers stay on schedule, both shows will already be filming their next seasons by that sentencing date. The ratings are high, but at what point does this all get too dirty? At what point does Bravo need to look over their shoulder for MSNBC to come along and steal their show and call it The Real Housewives of Lockup? Let me know what you thought in the comments. For now, I am Alex McCord. You are watching The Real Deal on thestir.com. See you next time.